What's up, YouTube? So I am here with Sam and T. We're going to do another one of these discussion type deals. So I'm going to go ahead and let Sam and T from TokYo-Yo Reviews introduce themselves. But I am Tom from Throws and Brews.
Hi, I'm Sam, and probably know me because this is going on my channel.
I'm T. I do TokYo-Yo reviews. I live in Japan. What up?
So anyway, guys, I know we had a couple of topics that we wanted to go over tonight. I think, Sam, go ahead and I think you've got it pulled up in front of you. We're doing...
So first we're going to talk about what the next design trend is going to be. And then after that, we're going to talk about how we can change people's perception of yo-yos.
All right, so who wants to talk? I'll tell you what, Sam, why don't you talk about this first, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Since it is your channel.
The next design trend, I haven't really thought much about this, but I feel like things are definitely going to get wider. And I'm not sure about the diameter, but it might get bigger. But for sure, I think in the future, more yo-yos are going to get a lot wider. We've seen it already in things like the Atlas and the Gauntlet and the Edge, which are all pretty popular yo-yos, which are very wide. And I think there's a lot of pros that outweigh the cons to a lot of people. And I feel like we're going to see more and more of very, very wide yo-yos.
All right. T, what do you think?
I hadn't actually considered that. I think that's pretty true. It's beginner friendly. I think when you have a wider yo-yo, you can tell people it's easier to land tricks because you got a big shape in there or a big space in there to catch the string. I think after the big finger spin wave is over, we'll probably see a different overall design trend. But I think we'll see bimetals for a little while. But besides the fact that they're being used as more of a marketing thing now, I think bimetals will become a little bit. It's hard to explain. I think they'll become a little bit more outlandish. I think you'll start to see steel put in different places. I'm hoping for this kind of stuff. You'll see different materials. There's been the 7068 in the Ultra series, the Yo-Yo Factory.
Yeah.
There's a lot more 7075 these days. I know TokYo is making stuff in 7003, which is kind of I guess the middle ground between the nicer aluminums and the 6061. I think that's a really good selling point when you see a $30, $40 yo-yo with this higher end aluminum. I think that'll turn a lot of people onto that kind of trend. I think you'll probably see more gimmicks too. I know the Nine Dragons kind of fizzled out, but I think you'll probably see some companies attempting to get closer to perfecting that design. And this one, I don't know. I know One Drop's got the side effect thing going on. I think I think we might see other companies trying things like that, some kind of customizable option. You got to keep people interested these days, especially with, there's so many yo-yos coming out all the time, and it's hard to keep people's attention, I think, these days. And especially with yo-yos, they tend to come and go. The booms tend to come and go. I think you need to give people options to keep them interested.
And before Tom talks about what he thinks the next design trend is going to be, this popped up in my mind after T was talking about bimetals. But I've seen it from one company, a tri-metal. It had, I believe, stainless steel and titanium rings. I think that could possibly be a new design trend because you could customize the weight distribution more, and it could offer a lot more possibilities for how you want a yo-yo to play. And I had an idea in my mind of a bimetal that had the weight ring on the inside of the yo-yo, on the inside of the gap, so that it was more center weighted and it was more maneuverable. But yeah, that's all I have to add. Tom?
Well, I think those are all things that we're going to see very, very soon. Personally, I think that I would agree that I think the finger spin thing is probably going to die out pretty quickly. Just, I would say probably even by the end of the summer, just because so many have been pumped out, and I would imagine everybody's going to probably be sick of it by August. My other thought is probably what's going to happen next that we're going to see probably this year is we're going to see a lot more 70-68 aluminum yo-yos, because it seems like they can produce them a lot less expensively than they can produce 70-75 throws. And from what I can tell, the 70-68 aluminum, while being able to handle thinner, while being able to like kind of change the way the weight distribution works a little bit for the better, at least for the better as far as performance is concerned. It also enables you to kind of get a better like matte finish on it. A lot of the 70-75 throws, sort of their downfall, not that any of them have a downfall, but a lot of them, it seems like the finishes are a little bit more, they're tougher to anodize, they're tougher to get nice splashes on, and they're tougher to put good grind finishes on because of how hard the aluminum is. Seems like the 70-68 aluminum is kind of, it sort of corrects that. Not that there was anything wrong with it in the first place, but it sort of like pushes it back. So I think that's something that that's really going to be pushed out soon. I also kind of think that the bimetal thing is probably going to fall out as well. It just seems like they end up being too expensive, and a lot of the trends that you see and a lot of what you see is really successful are a lot of the budget companies. You see Magic Yo-Yo and, to an extent Aldi, but a lot of the Aldi stuff is just straight junk. So it's not fun for anybody. But you see a lot of the more budget friendly brands, particularly Magic Yo-Yo. I think they're sort of the shining star, them and TokYo, I would say, although TokYo ends up being a little more expensive, but they tend to be sort of the high performance brands that are still on a like pretty low budget. I think you're going to see a lot more yo-yos coming out that are sort of $40 and below, and I think the thing is going to be, but you know what, they compete with $60 or $100 yo-yos. Like think about how successful the Unparalleled Corruption was. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more stuff like that. A lot more like budget type designs that are set to perform on the same level as super high end designs. So as far as that, like metals and designs are concerned, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more budget type stuff that's supposed to perform on the higher end, because it seems to me like those yo-yos are the ones that not only take off and sell a ton, but also end up sticking around for a long time. Just think of the Shutter, being the first budget metal ever as far as that was concerned for Yo-Yo Factory, $45 yo-yo that, you can go take and win a world yo-yo contest with. Before that was, a metal yo-yo that was, had the performance of something at $100, at $45. That's insane. But now you have that. And, that tends to sort of be the trend. So I kind of think bimetals are going to be on sort of the downslide a little bit. I don't think we're going to see as many of those. And I think we're going to see a lot less finger spin cups as well. I do think we're going to see a lot more 70-68 aluminum, probably the 7003 or whatever that stuff is too. I think we're going to see a lot of that. As far as bimetals and trimetals and stuff, I just think that the cost is going to be too high for that. So I don't necessarily see that as being something that we're going to see a ton of. Maybe one here, one there, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of that. Another thing that I really hope we start seeing more of, particularly from the brands like Duncan and Yo-Yo Factory, kind of the brands that produce the most like medium level yo-yos that sort of are like, okay, this is what's popular and trending right now. Kind of what I'm really hoping we see from those types of companies is a lot more like grind friendly and like grindable finishes. I know Yo-Yo Factory's trying to step it up as best as they can with their blasted finishes, although some of them, particularly like the pivot, like when you first get it, it'll kind of saw strings in half, but that's fixable. And thank you, Sam, for giving me the tip to sort of sand it down with my belt, because I mean mine doesn't do it anymore, but saw it through my first two ZipLine strings that I put on. I was like, okay, you're gonna get kitty strings now before you saw through all my ZipLines. So I was kind of upset, because at the end of the day I'm like, wait, Like I saw a string, like you know how like when it starts to saw through a string, you see like one little strand pop out. Like, wait, I don't like that. And then you can kind of like pull it and just break the string. Happened twice, and I'm like, okay, you get kitties from now on. But I've since remedied the situation, so no more issues there. But as far as I hope we don't see a lot more wide yo-yos. I hate super wide yo-yos for anything that's not like me learning 5A. Like it ends up being such a thing that like I never want to pick it up again. So not that super wide is bad. Like some of them are cool. Like if it's a unique wide, but if it's just like, I'll give you an example. Like the manatee. I really like CLYW throws a lot, like particularly the metal ones. I have a compass, and I just got a spoiler alert. I just got a kayak like Friday or Thursday, and awesome, just like out of this world, incredible, good. But I've tried a manatee, and it just like I hated it. I didn't like anything about it, and like how wide it was. I know a lot of people really like them, but I was just like, ugh. So I really hope that like just wider doesn't end up being the thing. Like wide-ish is fine, but I think there's a threshold, and I think that kind of crosses the threshold. And unless it's something super new and unique, like anything is what like the manatee is so wide, like it's so wide. Like I think there's a threshold where like wide is fine because most yo-yos are wider. I would agree. But like there's like a threshold of like once it gets to like the wideness of the manatee, I'm just like, okay, you're hitting too many strings, and it's just this isn't okay. But that's just my opinion, and other people might really like them. But I do think there'll be new gimmicks.
I agree with you on like the wide thing. I don't really want it to see it happen, but it seems like more and more companies keep making wide yo-yos, and everybody's giving them good reviews. Like I have a
God, they need to stop. I will. If I get any, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
If
This is too wide. It's garbage. Don't play with this yo-yo.
The Vanguard that I own, like I have no problem landing tricks on it, and it's more of a slimmer yo-yo. And I don't see slimmer yo-yos getting in my way, or even holding me back at all, because I usually land the string somewhere near the gap. But like a wide yo-yo, it takes up so much space that it's always going to get in my way when I'm trying to do a more technical trick. So I really hope that doesn't happen, but it seems like it will.
Yeah, I tend to knock off. So.
It's sort of.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I think that is definitely true. Like I think if they make some provision to make it more comfortable or to offer something besides the fact that hey, this is just as wide as possible, then it could be interesting. But I think like narrow. I actually used to be in the wide camp, and I've gotten a couple narrower. Like the Mantis is a bit on the narrow side. I just got a T5 Overlord, the Magic Yo-Yo, and like those things haul and they hit the string exactly where you need to. Like I think as far as like skill and training and technique, I think narrow yo-yos are actually the way to go now. But it does seem like it's becoming the gimmick of like, how wide can we make this thing? And at least some companies are having the wherewithal to say like, hey, this is for 5A. Like the Atlas is advertised as like, yo, this is your 5A yo-yo. But yeah, it does 1A too.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would like to see more 5A yo-yos come around, and I know the Duncan or whomever is about to lose their like freehand or 5A like patent or whatever here pretty soon. I know Steve posted something about it semi recently, so I think that hopefully will be as far maybe a year from now or whatever. The next kind of trend is I would really like to see 5A come along because I think it's a really neat and unique kind of a thing because it's not. I mean, it can be kind of techie and stuff, but I think it's really like it's just a lot of fun and I still suck at it, but I've been having some fun throwing some 5A. So I would sort of like to see that sort of branch out and become sort of its own little monster. And if like more wide yo-yos come out because hey, you might want to use this for 5A, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I agree. T, do you have anything to add?
I guess the only thing I don't remember when someone brought it. I think it was when you mentioned tri-metal. I can't remember. Somebody said that they made a magnesium yo-yo, and I don't know. I want to see.
Yeah, that was General Yo. They made it a while ago, I think, and a lot of people liked it because they could. The weight distribution on it was was done really well because of the material and its flexibility.
Yeah, exotic metals, y'all. That's it for me.
All right. Is that all we have?
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next topic.
Next, we're going to talk about how we can change people's perception of yo-yos. Now, I haven't been throwing that long. I know Tom's been around since the yo-yo boom, so he should add a lot more to that. So I'm probably going to sit out on this one and maybe add a few comments as they go.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
I'll go first. What the hell? All right. So back in the 90s, it wasn't a big deal. Like, everybody did it, and everybody kind of knew how to do it a little bit. So for me, like, growing up as a kid, like, if you brought your yo-yo to school and were playing with it, that wasn't a big deal. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's a thing that we do. In high school, I still did it a little bit. I wasn't into it as much as maybe I kind of wish I was now, looking back on it, 20 years later. But it was always a thing that I did, and it was, for me, it was sort of almost a fidget toy. And I hate to kind of bring it to like fidget spinners and stuff, but to me, I kind of see the fidget spinner phenomenon that's going on right now really is kind of a segue to get a lot of those kids into yo-yos, because, like, oh, hey, you guys like things with ball bearings spin? This is a yo-yo. Yes, you can't sit at your desk and spin it or whatever, but you know what you can do with it? Really awesome tricks. So it seems to me like, how do you make, to make it popular in the schools, you kind of have to segue it with something else, because it's right now kind of seen, at least on that level, as kind of a dorky thing to do. And maybe it is. I've always kind of been, into dorky stuff. Like, I do like yo-yos, not to say that they're dorky, but I've always been into, like, comic books, even before, like, Marvel started making movies that were a big deal. I have stacks and stacks of comic books. Video games were always my thing before that was, like, a mainstream popular thing. And, just kind of general, like, I played Dungeons and Dragons a ton. So I've always kind of been a nerdy type guy, but also at the same time sort of been a guy who's into, like, mainstream stuff as well. Like, I played soccer growing up like everybody else did, or at least everybody else did that's my age. And, so I was into that other kind of stuff too. And I think that kind of the trick to, like, making yo-yos more acceptable, particularly for, like, just the skinny kid that doesn't play sports or doesn't do any, like, mainstream stuff, data cheerleader or anything like that, is to just kind of tell them that, like, it's okay what you're doing. Have fun with your hobby. Like, I can count on one hand the amount of people and friends that I still keep in touch with from high school and even from college, for that matter. And I still have plenty of good friends, but I'm married, I have kids, I have a job, I have a house, I have lots of friends. They all know I'm into this nerdy stuff, and nobody cares once you become an adult. So to make it more acceptable, I think the trick is you kind of have to give the kids, particularly the kids, because adults don't care. As an adult, like, I don't care at all. I think I've probably covered that topic on my channel, is that if somebody's like, oh, you're a nerd, I'll probably just swear at them a bunch and make them feel bad about themselves. I'll call them really dirty words that they wouldn't want to say in front of their grandma. And that usually ends up being it. But I have no shame, so it doesn't matter. As an adult. And I think that's only ever happened like one time. And the girl that did it just kind of, like, scoffed at me and walked away. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. Because I don't. But, I think that's kind of the mentality that I take, is that I just don't care. So for me, it's hard to be like, oh, how do we make it more mainstream? Because it's like, well, I like it, so I don't care if anybody else likes it. But as far as making it mainstream, I mean, you just kind of have to have like, I guess, role models out there for the kids to like look up to and be like, well, that guy's cool and he does it. Or like, I think Gentry Stein does that pretty well, for as much flack as he tends to get sometimes. As far as like a role model that like does this, it's like, hey, look, this guy was a world champion and he's pretty cool. He does yo-yo, and he also has this like weird push-up Instagram that's kind of interesting. I just think you got to kind of own it. It is. He is. But I think you just got to kind of own it. And I think that, everybody's got something weird about them that they do. Not that yo-yo is weird or that you're weird if you yo-yo, but everybody's kind of weird on their own, whether they project it outwardly or not. I just think you got to kind of own it. And, if you're getting picked on or whatever for it in high school or in college or whatever, I think, to me, it's like, a matter of just like kind of stand up and be like, no, this is cool. And you're lame because you can't do it. Why are you so lame? Stop looking at me, and just stare them down. I think eventually you develop that callous as a person. But at the same time, I think more role models. Honestly, I think we need more, and I know I'm going on a rant and a tangent here, but I think we need more YouTube channels that just are about it and that are just like, normal, regular people coming on, talking about yo-yos, talking about playing with yo-yos, and giving everybody kind of a like, okay, so here's what I think needs to happen, and here's this, and here's that. And I think what we're doing right now is great because it's like, Sam, I know you're what? You're in high school or college or whatever, and
I'm not in college.
Okay, you're in high school, and T and I are like, we're married with kids and stuff, and so it's like, but we all have the same like hobby and interest, and it's sort of a transcendent kind of a thing. Like, it doesn't matter that you're whatever 10 or 15 years younger than I am, and it doesn't matter that our lives are completely different, but it's like we have this interest in common, and you're clearly much better than I am, but like that doesn't matter. Like, we can all discuss it, and we can show that it doesn't matter what it is otherwise that you do in your life. If you enjoy yo-yoing, that's good too, and you should do that. So I just think it needs more exposure to be cool. I think that's what really got video games out there. I think that's what really got really anything out there. Video games, fidget spinners, and I think fidget spinners actually are going to be a great segue for the yo-yo community to kind of weasel their way in, because I think a lot of yo-yo manufacturers are also going to make fidget spinners.
Yeah, Dylan.
The One Drop Trillium.
Dylan has used to have 15,000 subscribers. I think he's at like 70,000 now, just because of those fidget spinner videos he has.
Yep.
And that's pretty incredible.
It's insane, and it's like.
And I think.
Well, and you know what? All those people are going to see him yo-yo too.
Yeah, they're going to see him yo-yo, and that's going to grow the community. And what I also have to add is, yesterday, I was at my brother's volleyball game at a high school, and me and my friend Matt, hi Matt, he's like the only other person I know in Cincinnati who yo-yos, but he's been doing it a lot longer than me too. He's a coach for the junior varsity volleyball team, and me and him were yo-yoing, and we were letting each other try each other's throws, the ones that we have new or we haven't tried of each other's, and everybody, like, a bunch of high schoolers were coming up and being like, whoa, that's really cool, and they were all, like, cheering for us whenever we did a trick, and people working at the concession stand were asking me about, like, yo-yos and how long it took me to get that good and stuff like that, and when you say, like, you like yo-yos, or when you're wearing a shirt that says, like, Yo-Yo Factory or, like, CLYW on it, or something that has to do with yo-yos and people can recognize it as, like, a yo-yo thing, or, like, a Dunkin' shirt. People are going to judge you and be like, oh, you play with yo-yos, you're such a nerd. But when they actually see it, it changes their perspective a lot because they never realized it could get so cool.
Right. Well, and I think we're in a kind of unique time for that, where, as Tom said, Marvel movies are huge right now. And I can remember when if you brought the name Spider-Man up in a conversation, everybody mocked you incessantly. So and with the fidget spinners kind of rising up as well, I think hopefully people are coming at it with a more open mind, that kind of thing, like the EDC, the everyday carry. I learned that term from the throwers subreddit, but I didn't know that was a thing, like knives and fidget spinners and these pen flipping and
like tops and stuff.
Beglery and tops and stuff. Like, this is a thing now. It's a hashtag, EDC, like that. I think this is a good time for yo-yos to kind of break in, and I don't think they ever will be mainstream, and that's fine. But I think if there was more exposure and companies were able to make a little bit more money, then we would see, companies would have a little bit more, maybe, cash to start making new things, to try new crazy designs, to pay their pros more or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that would be the positive thing that would come out of it. As far as like the community is concerned, I'm fine with where we are. But as far as like the yo-yo in general, I guess, if that makes sense.
You mentioned Marvel, and quick question: have either of you guys seen Logan? Because I saw that recently, and it was like the most fantastic movie I've ever seen.
I haven't seen Logan. I want to. I just saw Guardians of the Galaxy yesterday, and it's awesome. If you haven't seen Guardians 2, like, it just came out yesterday. I just saw it yesterday. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so good. Like, it's just
coming out here for a couple months, I think.
Well, it's just as good as the first one. Come on, go see it.
Logan's probably my new favorite movie. It was it was really, really good. But yeah, back on topic. Yo-yos. Now we can change people's perspective on it.
Honestly, too, I think the other thing too is that there needs to be some money in it. There needs to be money for the professionals, and I feel like if there was money in it, that there's something to aspire to other than it just being a thing that you do for fun. I know that sounds like bad and cliche and like one of those things where it's just like, oh, but that's not what we want. We want it to be pure. But you know what? It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy to do this, and at the same time, everybody's got to eat. So I really think that money, to me, if there was an influx of money and sponsors, not just yo-yo related sponsors, like, yeah, it's great that Yo-Yo Factory has the ability to, sell enough shutters to give Gentry Stein a living. But he's like one dude out of like, hundreds of thousands, if not, a million people or so, or millions of people that can yo-yo and can yo-yo really well. And like he's one in, maybe 10 million across the world or something like that. That to me is just like, there just isn't enough money in it. Like, even if you think about like professional gamers and stuff, like, there's thousands of these guys, thousands and thousands of these guys, and there's tons of money in it, and there's tons of gaming sponsors about it. So
I think needs to be exposed to some people at like Red Bull and Monster, because that's exactly the type of thing they're trying to spread stuff like that. They like BMX, they like all those extreme sports and stuff. And I think yo-yoing is like a really cool extreme sport that if like Red Bull posted a video of me or Gentry Stein or anybody yo-yoing, then I think it would get a lot of exposure and a lot of people would be drawn to it, and it would help Red Bull out a lot too. Especially from the yo-yo community.
Yeah,
like, if everybody was saying that Red Bull was the only big name that was like sponsoring players and pushing out stuff for yo-yos, I think they would get a lot of sales from the people in yo-yos too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That and honestly, for me, I mean, that what I think hurts yo-yo the most, not necessarily hurts it, but what's hardest about it is that it's seen as a toy for kids, and adults don't do it, and kids don't have money, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, think about it. Like, T and I are adults, and if you watch our channels, we've got tons and tons of yo-yos, and we buy new yo-yos all the time. And it's not like yo-yos are expensive. They're not that bad. It's really not that expensive of a hobby, even with as many yo-yos as I buy. Like, I also play guitar, and I think every yo-yo I have is probably, I've probably spent as much money on every yo-yo that I have as I've spent on like one guitar. So, to me, it's like kind of a like, well, it's, I've got, 60 yo-yos or whatever, and I've maybe got, $1,100, $1,200 invested in it at this point, and that's like one guitar. So to me, it's like kind of a like, you know, if there were more adults in it, there would be more money in it. And you know, I think you get adults in it by kind of making it kind of, and then there's adults in fidget spinners. So I think, you know, the way you get adults into it is you kind of get other adult type things into it as well. So I'm gonna toot my own horn and be like, I think beer companies need to sponsor this type of stuff as well, because having some beers and throwing some yo-yo is a super fun thing to do, you know, from personal experience. So there's that as well.